So hi, everybody. Again, my name is Melissa. I'm here to talk about how to help you succeed at the college math. Okay. So let's see. Do any of these questions pertain to you? Don't really know how to study for a math class, or maybe you think you spend a lot of time working on the math, but you just don't understand it. Or even, I just don't have enough time to do all the work that I should. So these are the type of questions I wanted to answer for you today. So first thing, attitude is so important. If you don't think you're going to do well, you won't. But if you think you're going to do well, that attitude really reflects all the work that you're going to be doing over the course of the semester. So a good attitude and having good study techniques. Now, everything that I'm talking about tonight, will everything work for everybody? No. Kind of pick and choose the things that you think that might work for you and disregard the things that won't work for you. I'm just giving a whole bunch of ideas. And so pick and choose as you feel that you need. Okay. Because I know you can do it. Definitely. Everybody can learn math. It's not a math thing. You don't have a math brain. Anybody can do it. Math is like a language. If you can learn a language, you can learn math. So let's look at that first question that I had. I don't really know how to study for a math class. So first of all, it's not a spectator sport. It's amazing. I've been teaching for more than 20 years. I've been doing this, teaching math. And it's amazing how many students, even in recitations, in college algebra that I'm doing, there's a lot of students that just sit back and watch. Man, us teachers, we can make things look really easy. But actually you doing the work, that's what's going to help the most. So it's kind of like the way I see it is that if you're going to learn how to play guitar, you wouldn't just sit and watch your teacher play the guitar 3 times a week. You know, you would need to actually practice the guitar, physically doing it. And that's what math is all about. Same thing, like if a coach, you're not going to just have your players watch basketball. Like, yeah, you might watch some other games to see how they play, but the main thing is you're going to go out there and practice. Think about all those professional basketball players, and they're still practicing their free throws, right? They're professionals, yet they're still practicing. And that's what makes them so good at what they do, is because they're constantly practicing. So, yep, to learn math, I hate to say it, you got to do math. So another question that I had put at the beginning is, I spend a lot of time working on math, but I don't feel like I understand it. When I'm tutoring, I hear this all the time, all the time. So you need to remember that math is cumulative. That means it all builds one thing into the next, into the next. If you had trouble in chapter 1, you're going to have trouble in chapter 2 and even more trouble in chapter 3. So if you didn't get the stuff at the beginning, it's like that base knowledge, you're going to have struggle as you go up the pyramid of all the math topics. So you can't think of it as like separate ideas. You need to make connections from one section to the next, one chapter to the next, because that's how we make connections in our brain. And when you're in the classroom, you know, you're moving things to short-term memory, but you want things in long-term memory. And the way we move things from short-term memory to our long-term memory is by making those relations, how things are related to each other. That actually strengthens our brain on the topics. So you want to make sure you figure out, spend some time. Well, what does section 5.2 have to do with section 5.1? What does chapter 5 have to do with chapter 4? Because it does all build. You want to move things to long-term memory, and you got to make those connections to get that to happen. So like I had mentioned earlier, when I'm in recitations, I see a lot of students just sitting and watching me do problems on the board. But you really have to be writing things down. It's so important to have good notes. I would recommend a 3-subject notebook for just math, or even a 5-subject notebook for just math. You want to make sure you're taking notes in every class. You want to make sure you're taking notes on every ALEKS topic that you're doing. And I'm going to talk more about this, but this is a nice little picture of some really nice, neat notes spread out nicely, highlights, all that. So, as I mentioned before, positive attitude, definitely. That'll help you focus and concentrate. If you're thinking bad things, you're not going to want to focus. You're not going to want to concentrate. Try to sit up in front of the class. I swear, in recitations, that back row is the first one always to get filled up. But I find it when I'm in the classroom, I get distracted by the people sitting in front of me. I can like see what they're doing on Snapchat, or I can see that they're doing their science homework. I sit up front. That's the best place. So you're not distracted by other people and what they might be doing. So you want to try to stay focused on what's going on in the classroom. So try not to get distracted by classmates. Oh, and you're going to see a lot of repetition. And even in the classroom, when your instructor is repeating things, that means it's really important. You want to make sure you have that down, definitely. Also, ask those questions. Your teacher doesn't know that they're going too fast. They don't realize that they're skipping steps. Sometimes they just need to be asked, hey, what did you do from that step to that step? Or, well, can you say that again in a different way? We want to hear this. We want to improve what we're doing in the classroom. And we don't know unless you guys say something to us. And it's a good thing. We want to know. Give us pointers of what we might be doing wrong. Definitely. And listen for those signal words. Again, those words that your instructor might be saying over and over and over again. So this is just another example of the way some people take notes. If you don't like this, like the three subject notebook or a spiral, you can use loose leaf papers and keep it in a binder. That also works. In math, if you're not very neat, you'll notice that you'll struggle more in math. Math has to be done very neat and lined up. And so if you have trouble with keeping things straight, grid paper really helps keep things nice and lined up for yourself. And this is another way you can take notes. You have all your definition, keywords, steps, procedures on how to do something. You got the problems in the middle, and then you got your notes, like giving yourself little tips and tricks on what actually happened in those problems. I highly recommend doing math in pencil. Everybody makes mistakes. Even your instructor will make mistakes. We're human. So, and if your instructor makes mistakes, tell them. They want to know too. They don't want to give you bad information. They don't. So, but I recommend definitely using a pencil and not a pen. Colored pencils, colored pens, once you're starting to like try to make connections, but in general, pencil. You want to make sure you're using that same notebook. That's why I mentioned the 3 subject notebook or a 5 subject notebook. Yeah, you know what? You should go through a lot of paper. Hate to say it, you're going to go through a lot of paper in math. So keep all of your notes together. Don't have your science notes in the back half and the math notes in the front, because you're going to run out of one subject or the other. Just keep notebooks, one class, like one English spiral, one math spiral, one science spiral. Keep things separated because that will definitely help. And if you notice also on this little example I have here, I got to move it. I don't even remember. Look at that. Okay. It has the class. What section is it? Is it on graphing parabolas? Whatever, when you're on ALEKS and at the very, very top, it tells you like what you're learning, I would write that in my notes so I know where I can go back to. If you're using a textbook, you want to put the page number or the section number. Very important because you think, oh, I'll remember. No, you won't, not in a month. We're all going to forget. So it's really important to have that so you know exactly where to go back to. Take notes even though your understanding might not be complete. You might not be understanding what your instructor is saying. you're just going to be writing, because after you take those notes, you want to give, well, I think I'll be saying it on the next slide, but you want to give yourself a lot of room on your notes, because the teacher's going really fast. Your hands can't keep up. You might want to skip over those definitions because you can get those definitions in the textbook. So let's look at these notes. So they have places for problems. They got places for all their steps that they have here. They have little highlighted, everything nicely spaced out. When I take notes, they're never this neat. But what I do, or what I did when I was in college too, is I rewrote my notes. So I would take my notes when I was in class and they would be so messy. And I'm just writing and writing and writing and trying to keep up with my instructor. And then after class, I would have my textbook and I would rewrite the notes with all the definitions and with all the steps. I might have missed some of the words my instructor said, but it will all be in the textbook right there. And it's amazing how much more information you'll actually keep by writing. They actually did like some research recently talking about if you're typing something or if you're physically writing something, and you actually comprehend 80% more information from physically writing than you do typing into your computer. It's amazing, just by writing, the physical activity. So either rewriting your notes or definitely going back to your notes often. So if you're doing things messy like I do, rewrite those notes nice and neatly, clearly and legibly. Very important. Look at that. Rewrite in your own words. Highlight important information. That's something good to do after class when you're going back through things. Pull out those highlighters or colored pens and pencils. And then you want to make sure you're reviewing your notes before the next class. So it's really actually important to review those notes over and over and over again. And ask questions, go to your instructor during their office hours. They have to be there. There are certain hours they have to be in their office for their students. And if no students show up, they're sitting there doing nothing. So they would be so happy to see you during their office hours. And review your notes often. That I had mentioned just here once a week, but every section you want to make sure you're reviewing. Now you're probably saying, holy crap, seems like a lot. And it is. I can do a whole workshop on how high school is different from college, or actually how college is different from high school. When you're in high school, your teacher gives you all the information you need. In class, they'll have you doing practice problems over and over and over again. But in college, your instructor will give you some notes, but they're expecting you to do most of your work outside of class. At the high school level, the instructor or your teacher gives you 80% of the information, and you have to do 20% at home. In college, your instructor only gives you 20% of the information, and you are expected to learn 80% of it at home. Yeah. So a lot of work needs to be done outside of the classroom. So typically students I hear this all the time when I'm tutoring. Well, I'm getting A's on all of my homework assignments, but I'm failing all my quizzes and tests. Well, there's a reason why that's happening. That means you haven't practiced enough. Now, your instructor will assign, 5, 10 problems for a section. But the average person needs a lot more work than that. But the instructor needs to think, okay, I'm going to have students that understand this knowledge and some that don't. They don't want to overwhelm the people that really understand what's going on with multiple problems. But they are expecting you, if you're having troubles, to go into that textbook doing additional problems. You got to keep working through problems. So doing your ALEKS and nothing else, it's not enough. It really isn't. If you're not liking your grades from just doing your homework, this is right here what you need to do. You need to work through additional problems that are similar. I'm a big supporter of the textbooks, and they're free. You get them for free online through ALEKS. I go into that textbook all the time. I use the textbook to review my definitions, to put in extra practice problems all the time. So if you don't know your textbook and you're taking a math class right now, find that textbook and you want to read it and take a look at the problems. You want to practice problems until you don't need to ask for help. You don't need to look at your notes until you can just do them on paper without any type of help whatsoever. And you got to keep practicing that until you can do it. For every hour you're in the classroom, you should be studying 2 hours at home, which includes the recitation time. So, and that recitation time, I hope everybody, if they're taking one of these recitations, whether it's in biology or math, be working through additional problems. This is time to practice and get another person's opinion on how to work through the problems. If the average student, like full-time student, I'm just going to think full-time student. I know not everybody here might be full-time, but let's say you're taking 13 credit hours this semester. 13, that's full-time. So if you're taking 13 hours, you're in the classroom 13 hours of class time. So if I times this by 2, that means you should be studying 26 hours of study, right, outside the classroom. If I were to add these two numbers together, the time you're in class plus the time you're studying, what is this, 6, 7, 8, 9? That's 39 hours a week. That's a full-time job. Woo, that's a full-time job. So if you're taking a 4-credit-hour math class like college algebra, you should be studying at least 8 hours a week outside of class. 8 hours a week. That's what your instructor is expecting. Now, at the beginning of this PowerPoint, I had mentioned math is like a language. So if you were going to try to learn another language, any language, you would have to practice that language over and over and over again. First, you would learn, the basic nouns. Then you would learn some basic verbs. Then you would learn how to put everything together. That's exactly how math builds on each other. It's the exact same thing. Math is a universal language, actually. So think about how many hours are you putting into your classes, and then what is the grade? And yeah, I know some classes are easy for you and some classes are hard. On things that you struggle with, you're going to have to spend more time. Things that are easier, we can let it go, which is kind of nice. So if you're working full-time and you're a full-time student, that's 80 hours of time that's already spent. Is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. You can definitely do it as long as you have good time management. I love my planners. I have monthly planners. I have weekly planners. I have daily planners. I have a whole bunch of different kinds of planners. So, and because I find if I write things, the more I write it, the more I remember it. So I won't forget to do it. So that's why I have another little planner there. And I would have a plan for each day of the week, have a Monday plan, have a Tuesday plan, so on and so forth. So if you need to study 8 hours of math a week, the best thing to do is to spend, an hour every day or an hour and 15 minutes every day, 2 hours every day. A little bit every day is the best way to do math, just like it's the best way to learn a new subject or a new language. Okay, let's see, what do I have here? Most students really need to work to pass math, especially if you don't like it. You're going to have to work a little bit harder than others. You are. That's okay, because I know you can do it. It's definite. So as I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure you have enough time to spend outside of the class. Otherwise, you might find it really difficult to pass. So if you're struggling, the first thing you need to do is to add additional time outside of the class. And if you're like, oh man, Melissa, there's no way, I can't do this. We have some really good academic coaches. It's in the library, the Academic Support Center. We got some really good coaches there, and they can find different planners, different ways of time management, because there are so many different ways of managing your time, and they can help you find a system that works for you particularly. Here, I'm just giving you a really broad idea of things, and I'm looking at just math. So the academic coaches can look at your entire schedule and help you with it. So if you're able to schedule to come to this session, you know exactly where to go on the academic support website. So yeah, most students who think they don't have enough time, they do. The hours are there. It's just you need to find them, right? And the academic coaches can definitely help with that. And remember, we're all free. Academic coaches are free. The tutors are free. It's free. Use it, right? A lot of people think you need to have a lot of time to do math at once. No, math is actually done best in small increments. So if you can find a little bit of time every day, think about those in between classes or when between from lunch to your next class. There's all these little spots that you have of time. Find a quiet corner and do some homework, do some extra work, do some reading in your textbook, right? So you don't have to wait until you have a whole bunch of hours to do something. Yeah, I keep saying this, watching the teacher solve problems, it's not enough. We make things that look so easy. We're professionals. I hope we make it look easy. But you want to make sure you are really practicing these problems. So I think all the classes here at AU use ALEKS. So I did a little bit of research on ALEKS. So a little bit of, or what did I say here? A little extra effort really goes a big way. So students that earn the grades they want on ALEKS put in the time and effort to do this. They're on there every other day, several times a week. And students that don't put in a lot of time end up doing poorly. So you really got to put in the time. Now, this is according to ALEKS. ALEKS, the people at ALEKS say a course should take about 30 to 40 hours of work. They're saying 3 hours of work at home. I find these numbers really low because I think you should study or work on ALEKS 8 hours a week for 16 weeks. It's a lot more than 30 to 40 hours. But you might have looked at that 30 and 40 hours and said, oh my God, that's a lot of time. It is. It is. But that's how you learn math. That's how you learn a new subject, right? You got to spread things out. I know a lot of students will start working on their ALEKS after the first few weeks. Well, you're already behind. You got to start right at the beginning. Oh yeah, and the hours you spend on ALEKS, you should focus on learning the material, not going through it quickly. Like I help students and all they want to do is just get the homework done. I just want to get the homework done. Well, that is not having a good attitude, first of all, and it's not going to be enough. I mean, for some students it is. Yeah, some students, all they need is like 3 problems and they're good. That's not me, and that's not the average student. The average student needs a lot of time to learn math. What else do I have to say? Yeah, don't procrastinate. You don't want to rush it, a little bit at a time. So try to turn off the phone, put it in another room, close those extra browser windows that are distracting you, and don't wait to start all your ALEKS work. You're never going to catch up. You want to do a little bit every single week. So you have those knowledge checks. on ALEKS. And this is what ALEKS says, that it's every about 5 hours of work or 20 topics. You do these knowledge checks. Don't guess on those. Like if you really don't understand it, click the I don't know. Don't guess, because if you guess right, ALEKS is assuming you understand the topic and then you won't have to learn it. And then you might not get some information that you need for a test. And then if you guess wrong, that means, well, you're going to have to redo it anyways. They're trying to see, what do you already know? Don't get discouraged. Just click the I don't know. And that just means you have to learn the topic, which you're in the class, you probably do need to learn the topic. So don't get too frustrated on those knowledge checks. They're not for any type of grade. And oh man, use your notes on those knowledge checks. Because if you have learned a topic, review it, work through the problem, and then if you get it right, you won't have to review it on ALEKS. And that's going to save you a lot of time on ALEKS. So use your notes when you can to help you get through those ALEKS pie pieces that you have to do. Go to every class. Once you start skipping classes, it's so easy to skip again. All it takes is that first skip, and then you're just going to keep on skipping. So try not to even skip that first class. Get to class on time, even a few minutes early, because the instructors can say some really important things at the very beginning of class. Like, oh, that assignment is due on such and such a date. They're saying a lot of that important information at the very beginning of class. So listen, definitely. And please speak up. We really do want to hear from you guys. We hate quiet classes as teachers. We want you guys to be asking questions because that helps us teach you. It really does. And it's amazing how many other students have the exact same question as you. You don't think so, but they do. I would have to say probably half the class has the same question as you, especially when the teacher accidentally does something incorrect on the board. You need to speak up. We want to hear from you. Listen to when other people are asking questions because, like I just mentioned, a lot of people have the exact same questions. When you're taking notes, make sure you're taking notes on ALEKS also, not just in class, but in every ALEKS section. And like I mentioned already, you want to make sure you're reviewing all your notes often. So you want to keep doing homework, keep doing practice problems, whether it's on ALEKS or in the textbook. You want to keep practicing them until you don't need to look at your notes. You don't need to click that see an example button. That's when you know you got the concept down. So you got to keep on practicing, practice, 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 and review those quizzes and tests that you take. The best way to learn is by figuring out what you did wrong. So if you take a quiz and you get something wrong, make sure you figure out whether it's from a tutor, a friend, the instructor, looking into the textbook, but figure out where you went wrong so you don't make those same mistakes on the exam or final exam or midterm. And all of this work, it really does pay off. It will. You'll get those good grades and it feels good too to do that. I couldn't get through my math classes in college without a study group. Even if you're not even in the same class, get a group of people together because it gives you accountability. If they're waiting for you to do homework together, it'll help you stay accountable and get more work done. But just talking something through, just verbalizing it out loud can often help you figure out your own problem. It's amazing how that works. So if you have no idea how to even start the problem, make sure you're reading the problem multiple times. A teacher might read a word problem once and do it. The average student needs to read it at least 3 times. 3 times. That's the normal, which you don't normally see in the classroom, but it is. Make sure you're writing down, drawing pictures. I'm just running out of time, so I'm just going to show this a little bit here. If you get stuck, see us, the tutor, the teacher. We want to see you. And yeah, don't sit more than 15 minutes on something you don't know. That's just going to get you even more and more frustrated, and you don't need to get any more frustrated than you already are, I'm sure. So after 15 minutes, move on to a different topic, come back to it. And it's really hard to find your own mistake. Like your eyes just skip over it because you did the work. Do it on a separate sheet of paper, then you're more likely to find your mistake. Homework, you got to be nice and neat, very important to be neat. Using graph paper also definitely helps. Attend all classes. I hope you learned a little bit of something here at this little PowerPoint that I had. I know we're recording it, so if you ever wanted to watch it again, it'll be available to you. And that's all I really want to say. On everything, yeah, and every ALEKS, don't they give you that first problem where they kind of work it out for you, and then you start the assignment. Take notes on that problem. Copy it down because that definitely helps. Make sure you know your calculator. The calculators these days can do fractions for you. Find out how to do those. I help my students in the tutoring sessions all the time. I even have helped in recitations on how to use your calculator. If you're allowed a calculator, use it, right? Everybody hates fractions. Let the calculator do the work for you, but make sure you're using the calculator your instructor is allowing you to use. Because I know there's an instructor that only allows the scientific calculator. There's another instructor that only allows a graphing calculator. So make sure you read your syllabus. That's one of the most important things you can do at the beginning of a semester is read the syllabus. The teacher gives so much information in that syllabus. And I'm sure if you want to find out what kind of calculator your instructor uses, it's going to be in the syllabus, definitely. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate it. Bye, everybody. Thanks again.